Okay, I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Can you hear me? Okay. I'd like to thank everyone for getting set up. Thank you all for always doing such a good job to get it going and rolling here. So I would like to call the meeting to order for the Georgia Trauma Commission. Looks like we do have quorum. 5 here and who's on? Do we have anybody online now?
Courtney and Terry.
Courtney and Terry. Okay. And so Rob and Jim will not be in attendance. Okay. As always, and also happy EMS week. Pete, looks like you're the sole survivor in person here. So welcome and a happy EMS week. I'm sure a lot of things going on you guys are doing so. As always, thanks to our commissioners, committee members, clinical leaders, EMS partners, and state staff for your continued engagement in the work. The strength of Georgia's trauma system is always dependent on collaboration across disciplines, regions, and organizations, and that spirit continues to be evident throughout the state. Over the past several months, the Commission has remained actively engaged not only in operational oversight, but also in broader conversations occurring at both the state and national level regarding trauma system sustainability, access, and reimbursement. Recently, I had the opportunity to participate in meetings with the Trauma Center Association of America, where many of the discussions centered on issues that directly affect Georgia and trauma systems nationwide. Workforce pressures, rural access challenges, uncompensated care, reimbursement instability, and long-term system sustainability continue to be major areas of focus across the country. What was particularly clear from these discussions is that Georgia is viewed as a mature and collaborative trauma system. While we certainly continue to face challenges, structure, engagement, and statewide coordination position us well compared to many states still struggling to build alignment between hospitals, EMS, physicians, rehabilitation partners, and public agencies. I also want to recognize the continued work of the Finance Committee getting our fiscal year 2027 funding plan across the finish line. These discussions are often highly technical, but they are critically important to the long-term stability of the trauma system. Sustainable funding models, reimbursement methodologies, and responsible stewardship of public resources are foundational to maintaining access to trauma care across both urban and rural communities. As healthcare continues to evolve, trauma systems cannot rely solely on historical funding structures or assumptions. We must continue to evaluate how resources are allocated, how performance is measured, and how we position the system for long-term viability. At the same time, Georgia continues to make progress operationally. We are seeing continued advancement in data infrastructure, quality improvement initiatives, educational programs, and regional collaboration efforts. Increasingly, our conversations are moving beyond process alone and toward measurable outcomes, accountability, and system performance. That evolution is important, and I think the next step in our system. A modern trauma system must be clinically excellent, operationally disciplined, financially responsible, and adaptable to changing healthcare environments. As we approach the close of another fiscal year and begin planning for the next, I would emphasize 3 priorities that should continue to guide this commission's work: accountability, sustainability, and strategic collaboration. No single organization or discipline can solve these challenges independently. The strength of the system depends on our ability to work collectively while maintaining focus on the shared mission of improving outcomes for injured patients across Georgia. Finally, I would again like to express appreciation to all our committee chairs, members, and stakeholders who continue to dedicate significant time and expertise to this work. Your engagement matters, and the progress of this system reflects that commitment. Thank you all for your continued service and dedication to trauma care in Georgia. This time, we will proceed with approval of the prior meeting minutes, so I'll give the commissioners a moment to review the minutes, and I'll ask for a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the minutes of February 19th meeting.
And Pete seconds. So any discussion, corrections, additions?
We approve May 1st.
What's that?
That was just the budget, the call to approve the budget.
Oh, okay, okay, so both are on the, I'll
My
entertain.
apologies. Motion to approve February 19th and May 1st.
Thank you, okay. So that is open for discussion. Any corrections? Okay, I'll just take abstentions, or not abstentions, objections. I can't see online. Any online objections? Okay, does it carry? So that's a unanimous. Gabby, thank the staff, everybody that works on these minutes, and again, the whole program. That's a lot of work for those, these 3-hour meetings, getting the minutes. They're always really good. So thanks, Gabby. And then, Katie getting us through the budget cycle again. So thank you all. All right. With that, I will turn it over to our illustrious executive director, and we will move into today's agenda.
Oops, forgot about the mic. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Again, happy EMS week to our colleagues. And last week, I think, was Nurses Week. It's the week of all the healthcare professionals. So celebrating everyone and thanking you all because, as Dr. Ashley mentioned, we can't get all this work done without everybody who sits around this table and those who are online. So we appreciate you. And I'll try to keep it brief, but before I go into my report, I want to bring up this bylaws amendment that was sent out to everyone in accordance with the bylaws. This is an amendment that is really just ministerial. And it's just to decrease the bottleneck related to contract execution. No shade on you, Dr. Ashley, but a lot of these contracts sit in your email inbox, grants awaiting your signature. And it does not does not.
Dark under this bus. Could someone send a flashlight?
You know, but yes, it does get a little complicated. So this amendment doesn't delegate approval authority away from the commission. It is, as I said, largely ministerial. And so it simply allows the execution of grants or agreements less than at the less than $100,000 threshold for just me to sign off on those. So anything $100,000 or greater would still require Dr. Ashley's signature on it. And the intent, again, is just for operational efficiency. And the proposed language was reviewed by counsel from the AG's office. And I got feedback from them on, how do other agencies handle this when, there's a lot of things that need to be signed off on. So the threshold was at their recommendation and they did have the opportunity to approve. So with that, I guess you can call for a motion on that.
Oh,
Bringing up, it is the next issue for is for honestly change file.
okay. Okay. That's good. You've got the book. I'm not familiar with that. So. Okay,
Oh, great.
good deal.
Okay.
That's really good. You want to just read that since you got it highlighted, Pete, for our education? Because we may have this again at some point in the future.
Well, maybe limited and a meeting of society, but we're both provided that she lived and have been submitted in writing that previous or she regular meeting next month.
Okay, good. You are correct on that. I remember that now. So, that's a good point. So I guess, Liz, we brought it up. It'll be in the minutes, and people have time to review it, and then we can vote on it for next meeting.
Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you, Pete.
Does anybody have any, I guess, can we entertain any comments for edits or anything? Yeah. Or any discussion, we can certainly entertain any discussion on it. It'd be helpful to have feedback now
Should
before
we-
we bring it back.
Do we do that, Pete? Like, any discussion now so that people can be thinking about the bullet points? Okay, I guess I'll open up any question from commission members. that you'd like discussed or prepared for next meeting or any kind of thing? Okay, well then I think we'll, follow the rules and go from there. Thank you, Pete.
All right. Okay, moving on into my report. Again, I'll try to be brief because leave room for Gina and Crystal. They have some great updates for you. My full report starts on page 25, on or around page 25 in the meeting document. But just briefly, since we met last in February, even though we did have our budget approval, the major update obviously is that the legislative session concluded sine die on the wee hours of the morning on April 3rd, and our budget remains intact, so allowing continued support, obviously, of all of our core priorities and strategic initiatives. So, and again, as Dr. Ashley said, it's a big budget now, and it's a lot of moving parts. So thanks to everybody involved in that, and Pete for your leadership in that, and Katie for getting all the details together. So we're glad we're past that. The House Bill 620, the only other Pete, I was going to ask you if you wanted to mention anything on the two bills that were, but real brief. The House Bill 629 that was sponsored by Representative Hawkins about Stop the Bleed, mandating education in schools. I hate to use the word mandate, but they wanted to kind of make it so that the students had to have the education. This just kind of ran out of time, unfortunately. And there was a lot of support for it, but again, I think just triaging what had to come through at the very end, this just didn't make it. But I do want to say, especially because Dr. Vashti's in the room, we're so grateful for Northeast Georgia, your government affairs liaison, Elizabeth Holcomb and Kyle Gibson and Jesse Gibson for their efforts and help in moving this forward, because there was a lot of back and forth over the language on that. And everybody, I think, is optimistic that since it had such great support last year, that it's gonna continue to gain traction, and we'll get it across the finish line next year. So, and then looking nationally, we were both at the TCAA meeting just a couple weeks ago in Clearwater, and there are several things on the agenda there. The federal appropriations package maintains several trauma-related priorities, which are important. That included funding for Mission Zero, which supports the MilCiv partnerships, and many of you are involved in those, as well as funding for the Trauma Care Readiness and Coordination Program. And that's really focused on trauma care and EMS preparedness capabilities. And nationally, TCAA, ACS, really STN and ATS also all continue to advocate for expanded trauma system funding. It's tough in this environment right now, but we need stronger federal investment really related to not just workforce and readiness, but those MilCiv integrations, because what was funded for was a little bit less actually than what was asked for. So I think hopefully that will strengthen over the years, but the conversation really continues to thankfully revolve around how trauma centers really are the preparedness infrastructure, and not just simply, hospital-based programs. I think our role in what we do in systems is really coming to the forefront, so that's great. Also on the national front, on leadership front, I'd like to invite everyone to join me in congratulating Crystal Shelnut on her appointment to the National EMS Advisory Council as the Quality Improvement Officials representative. Oh, she's over here. Sorry, I'm looking here for you. So this is great news, and more representation at the national level. So great job, Crystal. So keep us informed about how that goes. You're going to hear in a minute from Gina. We just had a GQuip leadership meeting on the Emory campus, focused on moving a lot of our outcome measurement and risk-adjusted benchmark work forward. So that'll be great to hear. We're also looking about this registry environment, and Pete, I'm sure this continues on the EMS front, but who knew that all these systems would never be able to work together? That's just been the biggest frustration, right? So we continue to see a lot of heterogeneity in system operability, and we're trying to kind of head that off at the front, but it's proven really challenging. So we're continuing to work through that and look at opportunities as these come up. But it's critical for our benchmarking platform, because everything has to talk to each other and we need to be able to move data in a place that we can do the ultimate, which is share the outcomes with all of you. So we look forward to that. We're also advancing the EMS educational program efforts under Crystal's leadership, with Kristen really in the supporting role for that and coordinating a lot of the operational work around that. So Crystal, again, will provide a little bit more detail on that in her report. I'll also just mention that I did have the opportunity with my role with STN to recently attend the World Trauma Congress in Stockholm, Sweden. That was very interesting. Got a personal tour of the level 1 Peds and Adult Trauma Center there called Karolinska. And I've never seen such a big ambulance bay, Pete. It was all environmentally controlled. They could fit about 40 ambulances in there. It was huge. However, there were 0 ambulances in there because the way their system operates, their main anchor academic centers don't actually get the patients from the street. They all have to be referred there. They go out to some other sort of satellite center first, and then they come in. So I had a lot of questions about what does time to care metrics sort of look like. And so we're obsessed with that. And they kind of didn't really they said, well, we don't have a problem with that. So it was interesting. Super speeder wouldn't work there because sort of the fines and what happens to you if you're speeding on a roadway are too much of a deterrent because you get thrown in jail and the fines are huge. So there's no super speeder situation happening over there. But the hospital was a brand new $7 billion, well over budget. Like, I wish I could show you some pictures, but we had some social media posts with it, but it was amazing to see. But again, their patterns are much different than ours, and we learned so much there. We've been talking about this LISCO thing, 1,000 patients a day for the first 90 days. Their Eastern European centers, civilian centers, are being told 1,000 NATO troops within the first 5 hours. So it's just interesting what kind of word is getting out about what sort of a global thing might look like and how it might impact the region. So it was interesting to hear that. So it's great to meet colleagues from all over. The World Trauma was held in conjunction with the European Congress for Trauma and Emergency Surgery, which is kind of like ACS Clinical Congress. And the society was the European Society for Trauma and Emergency Surgery. They have a nurse section. It's a very inclusive society. It was really cool to see a true, multidisciplinary collaboration. They had a lot of EMS folks there, and they had a couple systems sessions, which I went to, and just really good information from how folks are dealing with system development and system response and preparedness across the globe. So that was really interesting. I just wanted to thank everybody too. As I just prior to Stockholm, I wrapped up my year as STN president, and a lot of you have really been instrumental in helping me with that role and the lead up to that. And Courtney in particular, when I talked to him about it, he said, you take a lot more from, you get a lot more from those roles than you give. And I didn't realize how much responsibility it would be, but I did learn a tremendous amount during that time. So appreciate everybody's support. It certainly was a great year of learning. So, and then I'll wrap up with, in case you missed it, on Monday, there was a joint webinar with Society of Trauma Nurses, TCAA, and American Trauma Society, announcing their big news, which is a joint conference for next year. So they'll no longer have competing conferences, which is great. So first week in May in 2027, those 3 entities will have a joint trauma conference. It'll be totally integrated, not separate tracks for those societies. So we really look forward to that. For my role in STN, I'm on the board for the joint conference. So it'll be really exciting to see that move forward. And I think that's it, unless there's any questions from anything in my report. Anything? We can turn it over to, we're going to turn it over to Gina and then Crystal for GQIP updates, and then Crystal will do our tech and EMS education.
Good morning. All right, my report's also in your packet. Full update on Arbormetrics. We've got all of calendar year 2025 data in there, and actually we'll soon have the first quarter of 2026 as the centers will be downloading to our central site by June 1st. The report cards that we are building and sending out to the centers each quarter is really going really well, and those are kind of being shaped every quarter. We add something, tweak them a little bit based on feedback from the centers. And actually, it's great to see because the centers are now looking at those report cards, seeing things that maybe don't look quite right with their data, and going to the platform, which is exactly what we want. So that's really a great thing. So we are actually working with Arbormetrics to add 2 new cohorts to the system, which will be blunt multi-system, because with our TQuIT reports, that's been that cohort has been an issue, and we'll be able to add the elderly age filter to that and drill down into those. And we're also going to add a shock cohort where we can filter patients for that as well. And then our next on the docket will be some new time to care reports, where we'll build PSAP call to hospital 1 and PSAP call to hospital 2 in the time to care platform. So that's in the queue after we get the cohort builds, which hopefully we'll see maybe sometime in July, if not earlier. Those are progressing fairly quickly. So they were generous with the timeline, so they wanted to make sure that they were, but we think we'll see those earlier. Still working with a peer protection attorney, and right now we're working with on some data use policy. And the important piece about that is to allow some partners to work with the data when we have some projects that are very specific and still keep our data protected. So I think this is going to be a really important project because we have some physicians that are great partners, especially with our GQuIP Scholar, and we want to keep our data protected, but allow, when we have some great partners that want to work on projects, allow them to do so. So this will be a great policy. We have our summer meeting coming up on August the 21st at the Jekyll Island Club Resort. I'm excited to have Dr. John Holcomb be our keynote speaker for that. So we'll have a couple of things on pre-hospital blood, including presenting our data, because we'll have a whole year from our registry on what we're doing. As Liz, Dr. John Holcomb, yeah. As Liz mentioned, the GQuIP leadership team met last Friday, and we've been scheduling those pretty regularly with Dr. Sharma and Dr. Ayoung Chi every couple of months. And those have really been fantastic to meet in person and do some strategic planning. So we talk about the Scholar program development, kind of our current needs and meeting planning. We actually have our next Scholar will be 2 years, which is fantastic because the last couple of years we've been in this kind of 1-year cycle looking for somebody, but we'll have somebody for 2 years coming on, and we'll actually hopefully have an additional Scholar that will kind of help. So we're doing a lot of planning around the Scholar and how to utilize them better. So that's really exciting. The time to care study is a little bit behind. Rada has, Dr. Anderson has asked for an extension. She had hoped to have a preliminary report at this meeting, but it's looking like June 1st. So she's asked for a little bit of an extension for that timeline. So, but we also have in the pipeline for that, which I did not put on the report, is our GQuIP Scholar has been working on a non-therapeutic transfer study with just the pediatric population. And it looks really exciting. She actually just put together an abstract potentially for TQuIP. So, so hopefully she will finish some of that up before she leaves us in June, or at least pass it on to the next Scholars. And that's looking at our specific pediatric population who get transferred and go home from the ED. And I think that will tie in well with the new poster that's going out. So they've even talked about some work now of looking at how those things correlate once that poster goes out. So there's a lot of ideas coming out of that. So from that. And I think that's all I have. So happy to take any question.
Any questions for Gina? Great work, Gina. A lot going on. And so thank you all for continuing to push the data and get that off the ground. Look forward to August.
Yes, that'll be good. And Liz, I didn't know when you wanted to do the RTAC scorecard.
We can just do that now before the presentation.
Yeah.
And then I'll just put in a shameless plug for the meeting in August. John Holcomb is a national, world-renowned expert. To have him come to our state, our GQuip meeting, and be like, it's really big. So I don't want to compare it to something, but it's huge. So, and it's not just for trauma centers, it's for EMS. He is a world expert in pre-hospital blood transfusion and knows all the people and the players. And so if you have a question, any EMS county or person, any trauma center, any nurse, anybody has a question about blood, this would be the meeting to show up and get to talk to him, shake his hand and ask your question, because it carries a lot of emphasis. And he was very instrumental. As much of a giant as he is, he's very approachable. And I emailed him a lot, getting our hospital MTP, whole blood. We had MTP, but getting whole blood going, which was new for us. And he was very helpful with doing that. And so anyway, I'm very excited that you were able to get him to come.
It's still taken, what, a year and a half, 2 years to get him? And he's only in Alabama now.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, he had some kind of big conference. He was, and I appreciate actually a big thank you to Dr. Dunn because he introduced me to him at AAST because I was, the work he done, they actually called him, he was part of the pre-hospital blood mafia. I think that's what they called the group, but they do. You can look it up. And so he introduced me to him at AAST, and he is very approachable. And actually, he will be coming in on Tuesday to be with us all day on Wednesday, all day on Thursday, excuse me, for the commission meeting and the other pre-meeting. So the RTAC meeting. So we will be able to utilize his expertise for those whole 2 days, which will be fantastic. So. All right. So I know this is not on your agenda, but Liz had an ask of providing a little information on the RTAC scorecards that we are providing out of the GQuip Central site to the RTACs to give them some data on demographics, mechanisms, even some EMS data on their scene times, time to care. And this really started over biscuits with Crystal and I working together. Like, what can we feed back to the RTACs to give them something to go on? It was right up both of our alley to talk about. And it started small, and it's really been a great project. I love providing the data. And then once we added Sarah to the GQuip team, she has taken it to another level and made it even easier to pull the data and quicker. And she really is the one now that runs the scorecards. She has made the reports easier to pull. She's worked with our registry vendor to build some reports that pulls exactly what we need. So it's not quite as labor intensive, and we can turn them around to the RTACs when we get the data a lot quicker. So it's a project that's continuously in motion, but I think it's really provided some great information for the RTACs to move forward. So they get quarterly scorecards on their data, and they can use it to identify trends, benchmark performance, and really prioritize what their initiatives in their region is. And it supports performance improvement and both their injury prevention, because they do get the mechanisms. What are they seeing within their regions? And the first scorecards we did, we really had some eye-opening things, like Region 9, which is the Savannah area, really has a high population of pediatric injuries. Yeah, double of what the other regions see. I know Brian's here. We realized that Region 7 down in the Columbus area has the highest penetrating rate in the state by a landslide. You know, so we had never looked at it before. So we didn't know that, you know, so it was very eye-opening. And then having that information allows that collaboration between pre-hospital, the trauma centers, and their other community partners to say, hey, we've got this data. Now we can move forward on some things because we really know what to target in on. So, and now it's not moved from just, hey, now we have data, we're sharing it, but they can really target on what their regional improvement needs to be.
Well, and it's become actionable data for the RTACs. So one of the things that it's been an evolution, and one of the fields that Gina added was not just injury severity score, but let's look at scene time based on the injury severity score, right? Because a 22-minute scene time when it's a non-acute patient, probably not something that we're going to fuss about. But as their severity score goes up, those are things that we need to prompt conversations. And so your RTACs, every time we meet, I talk to you about what they're doing for injury prevention and performance improvement. And this has given every one of these committees a lot to be data-driven in their approach to initiatives. But I think almost more importantly, it's livened up the room for the RTACs. There's a lot of great debate that's going on about, okay, if this, then this, right? And one of the conversations specifically in Region 4 was about scene times. And they said, oh, no, because you can see that our helicopter transport rate is much higher than every other region. And so Gina pulled it. She said, nope, not that, right? It's just prompting really good dialogue so that when they go back to their services and start talking about what initiatives are important, we're having a data-facing approach to that. And it's not anecdotal anymore. It's been great.
Go to the next one. So,
Population is the highest rate of penetrating trauma in the state.
and Brad was like, yep.
I called him, I was like, is this right?
So in Atlanta or Fulton or really?
Population
Justice.
justice, it is the highest.
I mean, that
rate
is amazing.
of penetrating trauma.
Right. Wow. I mean, that generates a whole lot more questions that y'all can dive into. I mean, that's amazing.
It really does. And it just eye-opening. And you bet that the Region 9 RTAC has a huge pediatric focus right now, right? So we dive down a little bit more into that. What does it look like? Is this orthopedic? Is it head injuries? Where's it coming from? ATVs and golf carts and scooters and things like that. That's the answer.
Yeah. So, and here's just a slide of some of the regional PI themes. So, you know, when you look across, we had each of the regions just kind of send us, you know, a quick summary. Hey, what are you looking at in your regions for PI? So, some of the common themes, you know, scene times, transport delays, transferring or referring facility dwell times, looking at their trauma triage, pre-hospital blood product initiatives, because one of the things we added was the pre-hospital blood given in each region. And we have some regions that are 0. You know, so that's very eye-opening to them. Like, okay, we need to look at this. Like, why do we not have any counties giving pre-hospital blood, and what can we do to move that forward? And then I also give them what the rest of they can compare now. And that was a request from one of the regions, is like, hey, can we see the rest of the regions? Because they can compare themselves to what the rest of the regions look like, which is really great. And then when they're looking at their case reviews, you know, they can collaborate within them because they actually have some data from that. And then some specific projects. They've done some simulation-based training to reduce their prolonged scene times in Region 2. Region 7's doing a QR code EMS feedback process, and Region 10's looking at hypothermia in their patients and really looking at their prolonged scene times to make a difference. And then next slide, you go this. Some injury prevention falls across the board have been a big issue. I mean, it's almost 50% of our mechanism in our registry. So really have expanded our fall prevention outreach and really targeting our elderly populations. Expanded the Stop the Bleed education, community risk reduction and safety. school focused, and then, the development of EMS leave behind educational resources, especially for these elderly falls. So Region 6 and 10 really focusing on elderly falls prevention initiatives because their populations were really high. Helmet and bleeding control initiatives. And then Region 2, when you look, also one of the things that we asked, and I think it was Region 5 that specifically asked because they felt like they had got a high percentage of patients from the prison system. So could we look at where these patients are coming from? So I figured out a way to do that. And so now we supplied the percent of patients that come either from prison or a nursing home within those scorecards. And they were right. They were right. So, so now like Region 2, they're doing some fall trend identification from the nursing homes and that, because they get that. This is just a regional snapshot of some of the focus areas from each region, and we can share this, we can get Gabby to share this PowerPoint with y'all since it wasn't in your packet, to look at how each region said they were using the data. And Crystal goes to all of their meetings, so she has a little bit more insight. This is what they kind of sent back to me.
Yeah, it's been a tremendous resource for our RTACs, and we're appreciative of all the legwork that Gina does. And I think it's something that will continue to grow, not only in the data that we're pulling and providing to the regions, but also the way in which we implement it. And now that we kind of have a baseline established, we can see if these projects that we're investing time and effort in are moving the needle at all in our regions. So we certainly appreciate this addition to the RTACs. Even though we bug her all the time with questions.
And that's okay.
Any questions for us?
You can go to the next one. And so here's the interesting thing is that there is some common themes and then the GQIP alignment. So the EMS scene time and transport efficiency, because I do provide them with the time from hospital 1 to hospital 2 within their region. And along with the scene time. So that correlates with the GQIP time to care project, right? So each region, and there are some stark differences when you start breaking it down by region. And what we use is the county of injury. So it's not by hospital or anything like that. So it doesn't isolate, you know, a particular facility. So it's what is listed as their county of injury. And then with the falls prevention and the elderly patient, you know, GQIP is focusing heavily on the elderly population coming up because it's our biggest population and we've got our biggest opportunity there. So our RTACs working on those items feeds right into what GQIP is doing. And then, you know, although each region is different, in their populations and what they see, their breakdown of patients, there are really a lot of common themes there. And they may do things a little bit different of how they approach it, but they are each approaching things that works for their region and based on the data that they're getting back. And I think that's the important key takeaway with that, and that they're just becoming an important tool. And I look forward to seeing how this grows and providing them what they need.
Is that the last slide?
Mhm.
Well, I'd just like to say, great job. That's probably one of the most informative RTAC and group reports that we've seen. So great job. And I like the organization and a lot of work's going on. It sounds like they're using the data that's so great work. Any questions?
I did a scene about maybe for EMS, a big contact, it was, they go on a route.
Yes, sir.
Okay. They're organized for response.
Pete,
With healing one.
Pete, could you use the microphone online? Can't hear you.
Too much healing on the scene.
And there have been some really great discussions around that specifically, that one of the things that we want to start kind of slicing out of the data is, do we have an increased scene time when pre-hospital blood is administered? Right? What about when extrication is required, right? So we're kind of looking at just the averages, but there's going to be a lot of opportunity to drill down specifically when we identify, here's an opportunity for improvement. Okay, well, let's figure out what factors actually can be impacted. We're not going to fix an extrication time with our ambulances, right? But there certainly are some other factors, and that'll kind of play into the next report out on education, is how we're trying to bake some of the things that we're learning into the education programs that we're building. That there's an opportunity for us to, just like Highland Region 2, and they're doing some specific simulations on how to reduce their scene times. Those are types of things that we're going to include in all of our education initiatives as well. At least reinforcing best practice.
And I think you just, for people out there there's always some trepidation, I think, when you talk about scene times, that especially if you're one region versus another or one county versus another, is, are you poking me? And I think I'd like to get the word out now. The answer is no. The answer is, this is to help you. Because as you talk about these things, you're on the scene for 30 minutes. There may be a very good reason for that you're down a ditch, you can't get the car out of you can't even get to the patient. So those things fall out. But if it's, I don't know, whatever, the injury you want to make up, and you're there for 30 minutes, then you want to ask why and what can we do? And maybe there's things that once we start seeing trends that each region's having problems with, maybe they can come back to the commission, and we need funding for X. So this is to identify where you're having barriers and what we can do to help, not to just like poke at somebody and say, your scene time's 3 minutes over and you're bad EMS. So I just want to make sure everybody hears that. That's not the intent of looking at the intent is, is there a problem that's fixable, that could be solved with resources or with funding that we could help EMS with? And I think that's the spirit we should all focus on as we move through this. And
Time to craniotomy in the, for your ACS metric, like there's going to be some patients that don't make it, that don't need to make that mark because their bleed didn't blossom or whatever until hours later.
okay, is that it? Thank you all. Oh, you got another? Okay, go ahead, Crystal.
All right. So in your packet, I've included, we've got my RTAC report and an education overview that was completed by Kristen Spires, our education coordinator that you guys met at Emory. And then each one of the regions completes their quarterly report for your review as well. I'm not going to spend a lot of time going through every bit of that, but I did put together a presentation for you that Katie's pulling up now. You can go on to the first slide, please. All right, they're going to hate me for including a picture of them, but I really wanted to take just a minute and highlight what an exceptional group of RTAC coordinators we have right now. This is the third meeting, I believe, where I've not introduced you guys to a new coordinator. This is a stable group of coordinators who are really maturing our system faster than I could have anticipated. I have a tremendous amount of respect for the group and the efforts that they're doing. And really what we're starting to see now is across the RTAC collaborations, right? Where they're working so well together that, hey, I've got a fall reduction and injury prevention project and we're sharing those. We're not having to reinvent the wheel. We have a base camp where all of them upload, here's a copy of my pre-hospital blood protocols, and here's a copy of, it's making things move a lot faster. And so I just really wanted to kind of highlight what they're doing broadly and how appreciative I am of all of the work that they're doing. I pester them constantly and they're very tolerant of that. So thank you to the coordinators. Go to the next one, please. All right. So part of my review is to give you an update on the Stop the Bleed program. The first time I met the commission was in 2022 when I came down to St. Simon's as an RTAC coordinator and asked you to extend inclusion of the Stop the Bleed grants to our kind of government other partners. So that was law enforcement, fire, county courthouses, et cetera. And so this is kind of the update on that program and where it's gone. Dr. Ashley, I know you love a good map. So here is your Stop the Bleed map specific to the expanded project. So one of the things that we asked Natalie for was to show the population on this map. And what I wanted to highlight is the extraordinary effort of our rural communities as well. We've got a lot of great coverage down in South Georgia. Ben and Coy have done a lot of work kind of catching up that area. And this map really shows that quite well. We don't just give the kits out. Of course, training goes along with it. We're working across the trauma system with partners from pre-hospital to in-hospital injury prevention that are helping us coordinate these classes, ensure people are trained. If you'll remember, last year we added into all new Stop the Bleed kits, there is a QR code to report that the kit's been used. Of course, it doesn't include any identifying information. We've still had some slow uptake on that, but it's a part of our messaging now for all of our classes, is that if you use a kit, we'd really like to know about it so that we can support you in kind of replacing what you used. We're also asking, what was the important component of that? Did you just use the tourniquet? Did you pull the gauze out of it? A little bit more data tracking on that end. So when it's time to reevaluate what's in those kits, we can do so kind of informed. All right, next one, please. All right, so the next Stop the Bleed project is the collaboration with the Georgia Trauma Foundation. So we have been working with Cheryl to increase the PAR level of Stop the Bleed kits in our high schools, in our public high schools, from 12 to 36. We discussed this, I believe, 2 meetings ago, in the things that we learned as a result of the school shooting that happened here in Georgia, was that when schools went on lockdown, if we didn't have a kid on every hallway, we didn't have access to them. So we are working now, 3 high schools in every region was identified as a pilot. We know where those schools are, and we're working now to increase the amount of training for each one of those schools so that they have at least 36 staff. And we're asking that training be extended to the students as well. Because again, lessons learned, it's important that the students know how to perform this. So our first one, Brian, our Region 7 coordinator, completed the first student training in kit distribution. So we're really happy with that. Ben completed some yesterday that kits were distributed. And it's kind of a good time of year for us to be doing this because a lot of planning meetings are being scheduled here at the end of the year and preparing for fall. So the coordinators are getting a lot of traction in this first wave. We hope to continue the project with the foundation and continue to have this infusion of kits as we move forward. These are the interns for this semester for the commission, and one of the projects that they're going to be taking on is kind of helping us to map this and have kind of a data-informed approach. This first pass of 3 schools, we went with who's excited to engage in the project, right? Let's get some early wins, and we certainly have. So we're going to be looking kind of geographically and across school populations to make it a data-informed decision for the next wave of kits that go out. Next one, please. All right, so we again this year did an EMS educational needs assessment. We had a lower survey response rate than we did the first year, and I think that really speaks to survey fatigue. But it again highlighted some things for us to be focusing on and working on, and I'll kind of tie some of this into what our education program looks like right now. So I think the most notable for this slide is the certification level. When we start talking about the skill request, that more than half of the survey respondents are paramedics. And if you look at their experience level, it's significant. Right? These are not new to our profession. 42% more than 15 years experience in the field. And then if you'll look at the other graph, what are they asking for? What are they indicating that they need additional training and support on? Pediatric trauma, burns, and MCI, that was also identified in last year's survey. Trauma resuscitation. That's been kind of a recurrent theme of the really sick ones and what are we supposed to do first? Right. And then you can see all of the other skills that were requested and kind of that priority order that was identified. 47% of the respondents indicated that they had limited confidence in their ability to respond to MCIs. It's a focus. That's something that we need to fix. I think all of us kind of understand the importance of confidence day of, feeling like we're capable and we're equipped to do so. So that's certainly going to be a priority for this year's funding as well. Next one, please. All right, so we again did an EMS provider survey and then an EMS leadership survey. The top identified targets for education look very, very similar, right? MCI, PEDS, burn, pre-hospital blood administration, and then our trauma resuscitation. Again, those are things that we're going to be focusing on with the RTACs and then also with our education funding to make sure that we ensure people have access to those types of training. The top bullet point, 93% of our EMS leaders, and we had almost every county represented in this, but 93% indicated that they would benefit from having access to regional supplies. And we're really appreciative of our EMS committee in that a lot of those regional supplies have been purchased. Trauma mannequins, airway heads, difficult airway trainers, crike trainers, things like that. They're now going to be available through the RTACs for services to check out. We don't want a financial barrier that you can't buy a new airway trainer to prevent people from doing training at their services. So your coordinators right now are working out what this process is going to look like. It's going to work similar to the Stop the Bleed, just a schedule on when you can come and pick the equipment up and use it for whatever program that you have going on. The next one, please. All right, so it's been right at 6 months since we looked at our education program and kind of made some decisions on what it was going to look like moving forward. If you'll remember, we divided this into kind of two buckets of our initial education programs and then continuing education. There's my QR code and shameless plug, the first one for, please go to our website for updates. As new grants are coming online and new registration links are active, they're always going to be posted on our website first. Now, we're going to have a lot of emails and a lot of flyers and all of those things, but we want everybody to know that you can go to the Commission's website, grants and programs, EMS education, and you'll always find the active links to apply for any of the things that we're doing. So we hope that that's not a barrier that somebody just misses an email. They can also follow us on social media, and we'll be posting a lot of it there as well. Next one, please. All right, so an update on what we're actually doing. The initial education programs were certainly a priority. We know that we still have a workforce issue. It was just under 50% of our EMS leaders indicated that their workforce was still a barrier to providing high quality trauma care. So this was the first grant that came up, was the initial education one. We had 3 different pathways: the EMR first responder grants, the EMT, AEMT, and then a micro grant for some of our smaller and more rural services. And to date, 446 students have been covered by that grant program. We've got 6 in the EMR, 18 in the EMT and AEMT, and 4 for our micro grants. And then hours calculated is just going to be kind of an ongoing metric. So that equals to at least 78,000 hours so far. Next one, please. Here you go, Dr. Ashley, got another map. So it was for the EMT, AEMT grant, you have to have at least 12 students. This allowed for classes as small as 6. So it changes the funding structure, but we still wanted to make sure that they had some financial support if they couldn't get the 12 students out of their community. So of the students who have started their initial education program, this is the distribution of them so far across the state. We don't have 446 up here because some of these classes haven't started yet. The students are provided access to Survey 123 within the first week of their program. They complete a short registration process, and then Kristen is able to see them on the back end where we can see geographically where they're from, and we can correlate that to some of the other tracking programs that we're using. Next one, please, ma'am. All right, we're continuing to provide access to MedEd Prep for testing. Students that are under our initial education programs do the 5 exit exams and 1 final exam. These can be kind of expensive programs for your initial education guys to purchase. So we're providing this free of charge, and they can use it for all kinds of things, right? It's got clinical tracking and skills tracking. They can make daily quizzes. They can make 1,000 other tests if they want to. This just gives us a baseline. And so this is the kind of the back end of what I see where I can pull up. This is looking specifically at the trauma exams, and we can just trend, knowledge, basically, and academic performance in the various topics. So I pulled chest trauma. That was one of the lowest performing ones. And you'll see in the top right corner, it kind of populates, okay, but what kind of chest trauma are we not excelling at? And so I think it's important that anytime we're collecting data, how are we feeding this back into the system? How are we trying to make improvements? Well, two of the other programs that we're supporting are specific to EMS instructor development. So we're feeding this information back into the regions when we do instructor symposiums and going, okay, historically, these were the lowest performing areas, and here's some resources on how we can teach this better, how we can do better. So hopefully next year when we reevaluate this, we see that chest trauma has gone up or that shock performance has gone up. And all the instructors have access to this as well, where they can see it on a student, a cohort, or a program level so that they can watch trends in their own classroom. All right, continuing education. We've got a lot of Con Ed programs, but I really wanted to focus on our Applied Anatomy and Cadaver Lab. We had the pilot course was taught last week with Lanier Tech, and man, am I excited about this program. This was a struggle to get off the ground. There was a lot of moving parts, but it's exactly what I had hoped for in that this is an opportunity for regional collaboration. So your Region 2 RTAC, the Commission, Northeast Georgia Medical Center, and the Technical College System all came together and did a 4-day training. The first 2 days were our continuing education program. So we opened registration. We had EMT pathways, advanced EMT pathways, and paramedic pathways. And then the last 2 days were for the initial education program. So they're able to do all of their skill checkoffs. They're able to do some advanced dissection work. And we're bringing in our trauma center partners to help facilitate that. The feedback that we received really was just exceptional about the program. And next one, please, ma'am. All right, so similar to our initial education, all of our continuing education, we're going to be doing some post-course follow-up. So we're using MedEd Prep for this as well. These are just some screenshots of what the students see. On their way out of the room, they'll scan a QR code, and we're asking kind of 3 categories of information, like, did you enjoy the class? Do you think it was well-structured and taught well? We're asking confidence scores before and after the program. And then we're doing some knowledge assessment things. Did they learn the things that we wanted to make sure they learned in the class? Next slide, please. All right, and Lanier Tech was just such an exceptional partner for this first class. They sat down at the table and helped us write curriculum and helped us kind of get into the nitty gritty. And the president of their college showed up for the training. He gowned up, gloved up, and jumped right in. And that was really awesome to see. He sent a wonderful email, and there's just a little excerpt there from it about what a tremendous win this is for the communities across the state of Georgia, that we were able to bring together so many partners for such a great day of training. It was 123 students total that were taught over those 4 days. And the participants rated the course 97 out of 100. That was our average across all participants. And 100% of them indicated in the survey that the course was relevant to their role and was a meaningful hands-on experience. I think that's a pretty good win. On the right, you'll see there's just some student feedback from the survey on what their experiences were with the course, and overwhelmingly positive. Next one, please. All right, so again, we got a map of where we were in Region 2. Of course, you'll see a heavy concentration there. We are going to rotate this program through all 10 regions, and we've got almost all of them scheduled. Dates can be found on our website. So what was really notable, we'll go back to our educational needs assessment thought here. Over half of the participants, the paramedic participants specifically, had 11 to 20 years experience, right? These were not the new folks to our profession again. And I want you to look at that next section right there. That is the increase in confidence scores for the various skills. So difficult airway management confidence increased by 34%. And almost half of these are experienced providers. That's why it's important that we continue to invest in continuing education, because in many, specifically our rural communities, these are low frequency, high acuity, and the opportunity for them to do live tissue work in small groups where everybody got to put their hands on the equipment clearly was very impactful for them. So trauma resuscitation confidence increased, airway ventilation confidence increased, and then chest trauma management all increased as well. And then the kind of knowledge assessment where I'm asking questions about, I ask about shock management and needle decompression and things like that. 100% of our paramedic participants were answering questions correctly around needle decompression and chest trauma. And I think that that's probably a pretty good system win for us as well. Next slide, please. All right, the color didn't show up great on that, so I'm sorry about that. But in green on the screen, those are the counties that we have scheduled cadaver labs coming up over the next 6 months. Blue are the ones that we've got mobile simulation courses that are scheduled, and I can send this out in an email that's a little bit clearer. But what I wanted everybody to see is that we've got some pretty great coverage across the state. We've got a lot of engaged partners, and a lot of people have really stepped up to give us some very meaningful support as we develop these programs. So I'm appreciative of that. So next steps, we're taking this from the pilot to kind of a more mature program where we're working out consistent schedules that'll be easy to replicate across the system. We're going to also, it's been a busy week, but next week we're going to have a cadaver lab instructor program. We're very fortunate to be the recipients of a specimen donation following a research study in Athens. And so Kristen and I were kind of brainstorming of what would be the most impactful thing for us to do with 7 donated specimens. And so we're going to put together an instructor course. So we opened up registration hoping that maybe I'd get 15 people, and I had to close registration at 25 and have a waiting list of 15 paramedic instructors from across the state who want to participate, who want to eventually host one of these labs. And the goal is to just make them feel more comfortable in working with specimens. It's not something that we have a great deal of experience with. So next Tuesday in Athens at the Health Sciences campus at UGA, you're free. We'd really love to have you join us. And we're all going to be kind of learning together. We've got some great support again from Northeast Georgia and from our Region 2 RTAC and partners across the state that are going to be helping us pull this together. Next slide, please. I think I'm done. Okay, I'm done. Those are just the other programs that links are available on our website. We're in the process of scheduling, or they are already scheduled. I'll kind of pick a program for every meeting and just give you a deep dive on what our data says. I'm happy to take any questions. Liz, I'm sorry I went too long.
Any questions? Crystal? A lot of work. Thank you for doing that. And then for being so organized and showing the breakdowns and then really, I was impressed with the fact that you could tell us about what they got right and what they got wrong and how instructors can target that in the classrooms. And then overall, I was surprised with it was such an impactful thing with the experienced paramedics with their 34% had improvement in their airway skills, or at least they felt like they did.
They felt more confident in doing it.
But I guess that's true in the sense that maybe downtown Atlanta's, maybe there's more reps with 6 million people, but in the rural communities, those innovations are, as you said, low volume, but high acuity. So it's harder to maintain skills. So that's a good point I hadn't thought about.
Well, and one of the things that we're going to do as a post-course follow-up is that anywhere that we saw that there was a lower score, hypothermia management was the lowest one. We're going to be emailing everybody with some resources. Right? We're not going to let that deficiency be identified and us not address it with additional resources. So that's the other kind of line of sight that we're able to gain.
Very good.
Thank you,
Crystal. Okay, Pete, we'll move into the Finance and Budget Committee reports.
Okay, I'd like to start off with a point we discussed at the last meeting when we were at Emory. Our bill did pass for EMS. The governor signed off on it, and what that bill is, the Balance Bill Act, but it does a lot more than just the balance bill to a citizen where they won't get an additional bill from the insurance. It will have the rates elevated to 325% of Medicare, so that will be the reimbursement amount that an ambulance service will receive from an insurance carrier when that person is insured minus deductibles or anything else, but it's a huge start. It also states that EMS will be reimbursed, not the patient, which is a serious problem throughout the state. And it just happens arbitrarily from time to time. So that's been addressed also, and this will all go into effect January 1st. So I want to thank the governor for signing off on that and all the legislators. I don't think it received one negative vote on either side of the House. Everyone supported it. So it's a great bill, and it will support both hospital-based, government funded, and at the same time private, or if there's such a thing as a non-for-profit, although I think sometimes we're all non-for-profit. So it's a good thing, very good thing. So with that, we'll move on into the report. On page 73 of your handout, you're going to see essentially a budget cycle timeline. And this is about the best piece of information that you can receive, knowing all the processes that go on during this on an annual basis, broken down month to month. As you look at May, there's really nothing there because we're measuring the current fiscal year performance-based pay results. But everything else up to this point is documented, very, very well done. And Katie, I'm not sure what part you want to address, but you're welcome to go. I'll jump in here at the end.
Okay, there's no major action items because we've already voted on the FY27 budget, but just a couple of items in here. I included your super speeder revenue as we do in each meeting, and you'll see it's trending just like it was in 2025. We're pretty much right on 2025, just slightly above. And you'll see that total on the next slide, about 40,000 above where we were at in 2025. I've also included your firework revenue and then your expense to budget, which you saw at the first of this month. It's just showing where we're at currently through March of 2026. I have done projections, and that's where we came up with the reallocation plan, but this is where we're at with the actual expenses. And then another item that you saw was the FY26 remaining reallocation plan, which you voted on May 1st to approve. And those amendments are actually currently getting ready for execution. So working on those and getting the funds encumbered to the trauma centers. Those will go out within by next week. And then the only other item in here was the FY27 approved budget, which you have also seen on May 1st. So all these items that in the packet this meeting you have seen and voted on and approved, but I am happy to take any questions on those items.
And you're just waiting on the uncompensated care final thing before we can do the full
Departmentalized.
departmentalized.
Yes, Jessica has a couple of centers that she's waiting on information on, but once we have that, I can provide the departmentalized. I can send it out if we need to do that.
Just as a reminder, we total budget was almost 30 million that was allocated, of which a little over 5 million went to EMS. And as a group, we're very thankful for that to occur. Very thankful to Dr. Ashley for that. And I think that as time progresses, as Crystal was doing her presentation, we're going to see how much of an impact that all this does. We will see improvements on the outcomes, and that's huge because we really haven't had that opportunity, but we can actually see where those dollars make a difference to the patient outcome. That's all we have since we already voted on all the different items.
You did all the heavy lifting, so now. You did all the heavy lifting, so now it's easy. Okay, any other comments? Thank you all. Appreciate it. Okay, I believe Courtney is online with the EMS committee report.
So I hope you can hear me.
Oh, very good.
So I'm gonna go through a whole bunch on the EMS education because Crystal did such a wonderful job on that. Other than to point out one thing that's different. We do have $60,000 allotted to improving EMS initial education outcomes. As Crystal noted, we have a lot of problems with poor performing programs. The idea of the $60,000 is to develop the curriculum and the extra AVs and tools they need to be more successful. And with the background that we have now with MediPrep, we will be able to look at those students that go through and utilize that thing and try to compare them to the ones who don't. So I think that gives us a great leg up in being able to improve what they're doing. Most of the courses that are having problems are what they sometimes refer to as pop-up classes. And they're generally small rural services who have huge issues with workforce. They're a long ways from a initial education program in the state. So they start their own, and generally it takes 2 to 3 years for an instructor to get good at this. And oftentimes by the time they get good at it, they've left this program. So we hope to be able to improve that by doing this. Jumping back to our spending plan, we did approve that, and that was approved through the last our call meeting. Now, we did put a little bit more money in EMS education this past year and put pretty much $500,000 extra into the EMS equipment grant. That remains a very popular, is very well supported by the EMS community. The other thing that we did that's notable, we increased the pre-hospital blood program from $250,000 to $500,000. Continuing ongoing discussions about exactly how that's going to work out. We are looking at initially our discussions were around funding equipment and initial supplies. There has been some discussion about funding the blood. EMS, the CMS will not reimburse for blood products for EMS. So that is for the programs doing the work. That remains a fairly significant expense. The inter-hospital transportation, report on that from MSAC and this group, the group from the state office, has started their own committee, and Dr. Michael Franklin is chairing that. Although I certainly appreciate that, it is interesting to try to watch how many different people are looking at the same problem, and we're wondering if we're coming up with similar solutions. Another piece to that on the rural transformation funding, which was part of the big beautiful bill, there's quite a bit of money in there to buy ambulances and put them at rural hospitals, with the concept that those ambulances would help lower the amount of time it takes to get emergent transportation out. A lot of confusion, at least from my standpoint, on how that money is going to be spent. There's still a lot of work to be done there. I mentioned the blood products, and I think that's everything I want to say. I'm glad to answer questions.
Thank you for that report, Courtney. Any questions for Courtney on the EMS report? I see none. Courtney, does that conclude your report?
It does.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move into the next committee report, which is the Level 3 and 4 Rural Trauma Center Committee. And Who will that be? Okay. It'll be Kelly? She's online. Okay, Kelly, you want to go ahead?
Yes, good morning, everyone. Sorry, Dr. Pender was actually here and she just got called to the OR, so she had to dart out. But I am reporting out for the level 3-4 committee. We have not met, and so, but at our last meeting, it was discussed with Dr. Registrar coming on board as a commission member that Dr. Pender would take over as chair of this committee, and I would be the co-chair of the committee. So I think we need to bring that forward to the commission as a formal motion. Liz, is that what we need to do here now?
Yeah, that would be great if we could do that. You could, since you were the former chair, if you want to.
I'm going to make a motion, have Dr. Henry be the new chair of the Level 3-4 Subcommittee and Kelly Vaughn be the vice chair.
Second.
Could I bring up a problem? Generally, the chair appoints the committee's chairs. Are we changing our policies and procedure?
Courtney, you're a little, we're having trouble with our audio here. It's just really, really loud. So maybe, it's not you, it's our speaker coming in here. Talk just a little softer, but I think if I understood you correctly, your comment is that the chair, me, I guess, appoints committee chairs. And have we made a change in that? Was that your question, Courtney? Want to make sure I heard.
Yes, sir. And I'm perfectly happy with the motion, but I don't think it's necessary.
Courtney, thank you for bringing that up. You are correct. And I'm just recollecting history here. Yeah, it is my job to appoint the chairs of the committees, and that's what we've done. I don't think technically we need a motion. I think we're bringing it up for discussion, but I don't think anybody has a problem with it. But I think for proper procedure, I'm willing to appoint Dr. Pender as chair, and Kelly as vice chair. So that should be fine. But thank you, Courtney. You are correct. Procedurally, we do not need to bring that up as a motion or a vote. I have the authority to do that, and I'm willing to do so. So we can put that in the minutes in. Well, yeah, let's check. Well, let's just run that by Pete, our parliamentarian.
Yes, sir.
Are you so moved, sir?
So moved.
Okay. The red book is signed off on it. Okay.
Fine.
Thank you, Courtney, for that clarification.
So I'm on all the committee calls usually. So do you want them to just bring it forward? Just because I think for the stakeholder optics, it's good to have the groups kind of have some kind of input. So do you want them to just bring it forward as recommendations and then you appoint based on the recommendations, just so we have it documented, or you just want unilateral,
Well, typically the way I appoint committee chairs is look at expertise, look at passion and interest, and then make the appointment. Sometimes I try not to beat on people to do something they don't want to do. So what I would assume, coming from Dr. Registrar, who's on the committee and been chair and is a commission member now, I would assume that Dr. Pender is not being drugged to the arena hand and foot, and that is a willing participant. Is that?
so the recommendation is true then? Yeah. They'll make a recommendation based on who's willing and able, and yeah, sounds good.
And I think that was already done at our last level 3-4 that we discussed, and Dr. Pender agreed and was enthusiastic about it, as well as Kelly. So I guess that's the recommendation from the level 3-4 subcommittee. And we had that discussion at our last virtual meeting. So that would be the official recommendation from the level 3-4 subcommittee, that'd be the new chair and vice chair.
Good. I think that's fine. So I think all hearts and minds at ease. I'll go ahead and appoint those two positions and we can move forward. Okay. All right, Kelly, it's back to you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So because we meet tomorrow, I'm just going to give you a rundown of, we have some things to discuss. I saw on the agenda, Dr. Mabes is going to be talking to the group. So we will be continuing to work through that, the rural interactive trauma simulation course with her and with that group and Courtney. And then we're kind of in a place where we need to take the survey results that were done by Crystal's great interns and establish some priorities and create some action plans moving forward. So that's going to be a lot of the conversation tomorrow in our meeting, as well as talking with Rachel Hand, who's one of the RTAC coordinators, but she also leads a connections group that meets monthly to talk about current issues. So we're going to tie those two together and determine some next steps moving forward. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. Any comments for Kelly? All right. Well, thank you very much, Kelly. We appreciate your work. Look forward to working with you and Dr. Pender. I think that's it. Dr. May, sorry. Okay, so now we'll move into the last committee report for this morning. Well, before we have a break, we'll have a break here in a few minutes, which will be the Rural Education Initiative update. Dr. Mays.
Thank you. Okay. So the course has gone really well. We have secured a dedicated incoming simulation fellow for next year. So everything's approved from the GME standpoint for the Medical College of Georgia. So he will be continuing on with the project. So far, and I have some of the information about the program reach and participant demographics. We're at about 200 participants so far in this pilot year. 100% are actively practicing in rural emergency department or EMS settings. The multidisciplinary composition, it's been about 50% registered nurses, 30% EMS providers, and then a mixture of respiratory therapists, advanced practice providers, and physicians. Being about 12% of actual providers in the ED isn't surprising, but we are going to try to target getting more of those APPs and actual physicians in the emergency room to participate in this upcoming year. And in average, most people have an average of greater than 10 years of practice. So measuring actual programmatic impact. So we have been collecting information in terms of actual medical knowledge as well as confidence intervals pre and post course. And we've seen statistically significant improvement in all of the areas. So with bag valve masks, spine immobilization, airway management, needle decompression, IO access, pelvic binder application, tourniquet, chest tube, fast exam, and MPP, massive transfusion protocol. We've seen statistically significant improvement in confidence intervals when we compare before and after the course. In terms of the actual course evaluation for satisfaction with the course, it's overwhelmingly positive. The majority of people either strongly agree or agree with the course being appropriate to their learning, delivered efficiently, enthusiastic instructors, knowledgeable in the field, sufficient practice time. I will say we kind of tailored the course depending on who is actually attending the course. One of the things that we have seen repeatedly, which kind of goes back to what Crystal was talking about, is certain regions are asking for specific training in certain areas. So when we were in Savannah and Hinesville, or outside of Savannah and Hinesville, the Liberty Medical Center and the Fort, lots of pediatrics, questions. And so one of the things we've talked about is actually having some sort of special patient population option that we can actually deliver with the course at these different locations. So maybe it is talking more about penetrating trauma. Obstetrical trauma was huge at Douglasville or Douglas. We see certain places have more burns. So if we can sort of target some of these special patient populations with the course, I think that would be great. I think in the future, we did this at Emmanuel where we did back-to-back days, and we were actually able to capture a lot more of the providers in the surrounding areas because those that were working one day were able to make it the other day and vice versa. And with strategic planning, it worked out really nicely. And we ended up capturing about 50 providers, just in that, in those surrounding regions. We're looking at some of the larger areas. I just went to Albany yesterday. And one of the things we talked about is using some of these central regional hubs to also build instructors into these regions. So, down, Dr. Register and Cordele, we have Dr. Dent in Albany, we're going to Thomasville in September with back-to-back days and really trying to capture their surrounding areas with their rural communities, but utilizing kind of the different regional areas, which I'll work with the RTACs as well. To really capture more people in the region. So overall, it's been great. We did, thematic analysis. We've done both qualitative and quantitative evaluations. We've presented at the Association of Surgical Education, and we're getting ready to present or submit a couple abstracts for East. So kind of getting more into that trauma world. We have already scheduled 6 courses through December. So we'll be looking to schedule in the spring. And so I think, it's working really well. We have more support. I think medical college has given me a little bit more support, so I can have some more time dedicated to it, which is fantastic. And then the additional support from Georgia Trauma Commission, Georgia Trauma Foundation, being able to replace some of the resources as we burn through all the simulation equipment. So I think that's kind of the update. I didn't do the whole huge PowerPoint presentation for everyone. I know we've gone through it a few times. But any questions or comments, concerns that any of you all have? I think what we would like to see is kind of a 5-year plan is what I talked about, really trying to, in the next year or so, build the instructor manual, get instructors that are interested, involved in actually teaching the course, so that by 5 years, we've disseminated it regionally and it can be sustainable from that standpoint.
Outstanding work. It's really good and well organized, and it's all very academic and publishable. So kudos.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you, guys. The support from you guys and everyone, Crystal and RTAC coordinators is fantastic. So now I'm working on a project manager. I'm trying to get someone to, they're like, who can I reach out to for your coordinator? I was like, it's me. Yeah. So, but we're getting there. We're getting there.
Dr. Ashley, I actually had the opportunity to take it when they did it in Swainsboro, and it is an excellent class.
Very good. Very good. Did you learn anything, Courtney?
Well, that's difficult to establish it with my intellect, but yes, I learned it quite a bit.
All right. That's a great testimonial. If you talk Dr. Courtney, if you taught Dr. Courtney something, that was a good testimonial. Thank you, Courtney. And thank you, Dr. May. Any other question?
Courtney, did you want to bring forward your request to?
If it's appropriate time, yes. So we're trying to support what Dr. Mabes has initiated. Essentially, the classes that she are doing is a much higher level than we had planned to do with the March Balls. We have $102,580 left in the March Balls bucket. My motion is that we allow the Emmanuel Medical Center to fund that $102,580 to AU to continue their program.
Yeah, that $102,000 that is left in that manual.
The old Mark possible. So this is an expansion of work they're doing. He wants to redirect that money to continue to support that.
So are you making a motion, Courtney?
Yes, I am.
Can we get a second? Pete, seconds. It's open for discussion. Okay, any, call to vote then, any, opposed? Okay, carries.
Thank you.
You had mentioned the need for a program coordinator. Is there a budget being allocated to that?
So, and I think we're waiting still to hear back, I guess from the State Office of Rural Health, how all of the budget turns out with them. They were going to include funding for part of our program for like a 5-year plan. We're still waiting to hear the finalization of that. Right now, what it looks like is it's going to be a shared, cost between, Georgia Trauma Commission, Georgia Trauma Found, or, State Office of Rural Health, and then the Medical College of Georgia. And so we will, my program is currently working on paying for about 50% of a program coordinator that would be able to help with that, with some of the offsetting costs being from the other funding sources. So it's in progress. I'm still charging forward and doing all the coordination, but looking, it's not the same.
Jay, the problem with both us and DCH, State Office of Rural Health, is like she really needs, she's got like a great 5-year plan. You guys have seen it. But we can't allocate funds for subsequent years. That's like a rare, I mean, we kind of need to put our heads together and figure out how we can do something, because you need some kind of commitment. I mean, I think MCG seems willing, they will continue on, but we just need,
So I think we're going to be successful with MCG doing most of the heavy lifting for that for me. And then that will facilitate building the program, continuing on.
They'll cover for time, so.
Yeah, that was the biggest challenge. Who's going to cover the surgeon's time? But yeah, it looks like right now we've tentatively gotten approved for at least a 50% coordinator funding through MCG.
The other. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, because we already approved, because we were ahead, but they're still waiting for their total grant allocation, so they don't know what's coming.
Right.
Part of theirs is federal, right? Yeah.
And sometimes they can figure out job share. So we also within our trauma division, so we can kind of buy a little bit of like rural outreach as part of us being a level 1 ACS accredited institution. And so we are actually expanding because of the opening of the Columbia County Hospital. We're going to be netting 5 more trauma surgeons. So one of the workarounds we're looking at is, can we at least, and it would be a temporary fix, we at least get an additional administrator that could also be 50% my coordinator. We'll make it happen. It's just it's like a snail pace.
Yeah.
Does that conclude your report?
That does.
Thank you
very much.
Great work.
Appreciate
Okay.
it.
All right, this time we'll take a 10-minute break and then reconvene with the Georgia Committee for Trauma Excellence. Is Lynn presenting? Lynn? Okay, so we'll take a 10-minute break. Lynn, if you're listening, we'll reconvene in about 10 minutes. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. All right, we'll start with the Georgia Committee for Trauma Excellence, Lynn Grant. Lynn, are you out there?
I'm here. Good morning.
Okay, so sorry, we're starting a couple minutes late here, but go ahead.
Okay. So we had our last meeting a couple weeks ago on April 30th, as you can tell from our report here. There's lots of work being done across the state through these amazing people. The education subcommittee, we held the topic course on May the 8th, and then we had the optimal course scheduled for August 19th. We would like to thank the commission for providing the funding for these courses, and to Gabby for handling all the logistics, because I know that was a nightmare, but we do appreciate her. The pediatric subcommittee, the pediatric indications for transfer, that one-page document has been finalized and was released in April of 2026. Everybody did a great job with that. I know the TMD subcommittee helped a lot with that as well. They're working on updating the pediatric imaging toolkit. The literature review has been finalized. The proposals have been completed. They're still pending some pediatric radiologist and pediatric ED physician review, but their target release date for that will be sometime in Q3. As well as the CRIC reference for assessment, stabilization, and treatment of pediatric trauma patients. That's if you remember the trifold CRIC reference guide that they created, the content for that has been approved. They're just having some formatting issues, but they're expected to release that in Q3 as well. The Performance Improvement Subcommittee, they continue to compile standardized PI review documents. They've shifted their focus a little bit towards developing geriatric trauma initiatives across facilities. And members in this group are sharing what their tools and any existing geriatric guidelines to help others out. And Gina created a shared repository in Basecamp for all this information to go into. So thank you, Gina, for that. I know that's been very helpful. The registry subcommittee, they're continuing to review all the to review other registry vendors. At this time, I believe they will be doing this over the summer months. They have a registry Q&A log that was created in Basecamp as well. This was created for tracking questions and resolutions regarding the registry. Includes the monthly topics, questions, and any final resolutions. Registry questions are shared and discussed among the program managers statewide. And this is a great resource because there's always many registry questions that come up often. So this is a great place to go back to review those. The Injury Prevention and Outreach Subcommittee, they continue to meet and include member presentations on successful injury prevention projects and outreach efforts. And they're also sharing experiences related to recent ACS verification and injury prevention and outreach requirements, which has been very helpful to people who are upcoming on their surveys. As you know, today's National Stop the Bleed Day, so there's lots of education going on throughout the state today with that, and it has been all week. And they're also gearing up for Georgia Stay Safe Week, which is June 21st through 27th, and they have created education materials that's available to all centers for that and is available on their website. And that's all I had. If anybody has any questions.
Okay, any questions for for Lynn? Okay, great report, Lynn. We appreciate all your committee's hard work. A lot of good. Okay, at this time, we'll move into the Trauma Administrators Committee report, and I believe Dr. Jason Smith is giving that report, Liz. Is that correct? Dr. Smith, are you on the line?
Yes, sir.
Well, welcome to the commission meeting. Please go ahead. The floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. So we had our last meeting on May the 4th, and we did our RMOCC planning, developed a cross-committee work group between the trauma medical directors and trauma administrators in order to evaluate RMOCC models, assess operational needs, and provide recommendations. 5 trauma administrator volunteers were identified with final selection pending to ensure balanced representation. We also elected a committee vice chair, which was me. So happy to be in that role. And we did our PVP update on the 27 performance-based pay meeting and shared those reminders. We have our next meeting on the 20th of August. So that's my report, unless there are any questions.
Any questions for Dr. Smith? Congratulations on moving the RMOC forward and getting your committee, the volunteers, and that's really great news. So great work, and looking forward to hearing more from that. That's going to be very beneficial, I think, for the state. So thank you.
You're most welcome. Thank you, sir.
Okay. We'll move then into the Trauma Medical Directors Committee report. Dr. Bassey.
All right. I too will be brief. We had our most recent meeting earlier in the week in conjunction with the GQIP virtual meeting. We met virtually as well. The 2 big things we're working on, as was just mentioned, is the RMOC subcommittee. Thanks for kickstarting that at our last in-person meeting, Dr. Ashley. Really excited about the interest that was that we received. We've got that subcommittee established, as was mentioned. We actually sat down virtually with Dr. Ashley and his team and went over some really important logistics to try to learn from those that have gone before us in terms of how this works, how much money it costs, help what resources we need. And Dr. Ashley kind of helped us lay out a little bit of a timeline in terms of maybe getting some things accomplished with the RMOC from a legislative basis. Now that we have that information in front of us and we've had a chance to digest it, our next steps are going to be getting that subcommittee together and sharing the important parts of that with the rest of that subcommittee. So looking forward to the work that will be happening there. In addition, we talked about a vice chair election and a succession plan. I've so far received a nomination, one nomination. I'm still soliciting nominations for another week or two. And hopefully by the next time we get together virtually just before the summer meeting, we'll have a name to forward. Thoughts on that are up for discussion, obviously, but my thoughts were to have a 2-year succession plan and have basically 3 positions eventually, the immediate past chair, and vice chair, and have that rotate on a 2-year basis. Starting with hopefully somebody taking the vice chair position as of the summer meeting, that is. So I think that is all that I wanted to talk about, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Is there any other meetings scheduled, Matt?
I'm sorry?
Is there any other meetings with your group scheduled for the RMOC or anything?
And not as of yet. I'm going to start working on getting them. I think we settled on 7 or 8 of us between the 2 subcommittees or between the 2 committees. So working on getting that one scheduled over the next couple of 3 weeks.
So that's the next step with the administrators committee and the TMD committee, that subgroup working together, representation on both.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. Well, thanks for your leadership and hard work in that. That was very fruitful. Thank you.
Very welcome. Thank you.
Make a comment on the RMOC
Sure.
piece because thanks to Pete, because he several months ago when you reached out to me when you saw that RFP go out from Atlanta Regional Commission on looking at acute care in the Region 3 area from the Atlanta Regional Commission, it is, right? Atlanta Regional Commission is what they call themselves. This kind of ties into RMOC because they're very interested. I think a lot of that was kind of came to light when Atlanta Medical Center closed and some of the just reduced access to like acute care services in some areas and the strain that caused. So they hired a consulting group to actually take a look at what, some of the roadblocks are. And they reached out to me and I spent an hour on a call with them, just sharing all the stuff that we've done specific to trauma center access, but they were really interested in how that fits in with the broader scope. And we talked about the RMOC concept. So they asked a lot of good pointed questions about what's been done in the past. So I think the time is right. And I like the fact that you're all getting together with administrators is going to really help maybe propel this forward. And maybe we can talk offline after this if you have a few minutes before you got to go run back or go sleep or whatever.
No.
To figure out what other partners we bring in that could potentially kind of oversee this. Cause you got big, Atlanta centers and tertiary centers and even your own serve more than just your areas. You really serve the state in a way because your service tertiary, or quaternary in some instances resources for everybody. So it's important for all of us to be aware of and how we communicate. And if the LISCO piece comes to fruition, how we load balance and how we monitor where resources are and more importantly, where they are not. And that not necessarily just limited to subspecialists, but like equipment, because things like orthopedic hardware and all of that stuff is going to get really scarce really, really quick. And I was in between our February meeting and now also went to the ACS COT meeting and they started that day was the Stryker data breach, and they were shut out of all their systems and they had delays. And a lot of the hardware and things that would be required for things that we would see stateside for repair for large scale combat would be coming from overseas. And the fact that that could easily, and now the cyber criminals are going after big infrastructure, things like that, because they can affect more hospital systems, not just like if they go after your system, they're only shutting you down. But if they go after companies like Stryker, you're affecting many more people by shutting that down. So like the RMAC is pivotal for all that. So it's really so good to see that move forward.
Yeah, thanks for those comments. If there's any additional information you find out, please share that. I can share that with the subcommittee as well.
Okay, thank you, Matt. And then the Trauma Systems Performance Committee, Dr. Dunn couldn't be online to present, but the report is included in the pack, so FYI. At this time, we'll move to the Georgia Trauma Foundation, Dr. Bleacher. Not much going on there, is there? I mean, not anything big coming up, is it?
Oh, never. As a matter of fact, on May the 30th, we are holding our premier annual event, the One Georgia Gala. It's been rebranded One Georgia to align with the vision of the foundation for one state, one standard. And we're very excited about this event. It every year is growing in terms of participation and fundraising. It's bringing together the key stakeholders, the people who provide trauma care, policymakers, advocates, community partners, and it's being held at the Delta Flight Museum this year. And it'll be a really excellent event. And if any of you are wanting to go and haven't purchased a ticket, time is running out, so please let Cheryl know. And I think you may still be able to buy tickets on the Georgia Trauma Foundation website as well. Also, with regard to community engagement, this year, the foundation is going to be holding regional events throughout the state. It's more effective in terms of providing public awareness if the foundation brings trauma care to the communities and throughout the state so that they're able to be face to face with it. And so we already have the first regional event planned for June the 13th in Thomasville. That would be Region 8. It'll be at the Exchange Club Fairgrounds, and it'll be free to the public, and it's a way of bringing public awareness to the community. So we're excited about that. There will be regional events throughout the state, but this is the first one that's been scheduled. And then finally, I will report that Trauma Awareness Day at the Capitol was February 24th. Again, the engagement exceeded previous years in terms of people that registered, and it was quite successful with regard to getting the trauma providers face to face with policymakers and bring attention front and center to the trauma system in Georgia, and it I think is an effective way of public awareness and also legislative awareness to the state. And that's all I have to.
Any questions for Dr. Bleacher? I would say the governor's going to be there, and so it would be behoove all the commission members to be there, so very important event. Need your commission representation. All right, any other questions? Thank you, John. So we'll move into the Office of EMS and Trauma. Stacy?
Good morning, everybody. Give y'all a quick update on the Office of EMS and Trauma and some of our successes. So we have 2 new level 4 trauma centers. We're excited to have them aboard. Region 9 and Region 8, we have Memorial Satilla and Colquitt Regional Medical Center. So we're excited that they have joined the trauma program and excited what they can offer in those southern regions. And we do have 2 potential centers coming up by the end of the year in those regions as well. So congratulations to them. Congratulations also to Piedmont Henry. They were redesignated as a level 3 trauma center. And I know we've had a lot of centers have successful ACS visits, so I'm not congratulating them. I just can't say your name until we get that official letter. So if y'all want to give yourselves announcements, that's great, but I will announce all the other centers that have their ACS designations on our next quarter meeting. But we have had successful ACS visits across the state, and we'll have a bunch in June as well. It's kind of an update on what's going on in our data world. Marie is online if we have some additional questions. But the ESO link and the ITDX link, they are available and they are open. And she did send an email out, I think, within this last hour. So all trauma centers can now install the 2026 state update, run your data from January 1st to March 31st, then import the download to the ImageTrend Patient Registry Central site. And then we will work with any errors that get triggered. We will work with those to make sure we can get all the data imported accurately and correctly. So if the centers want to go ahead and do the ESO and the ITDX links, they can upload their January through March data. We are also still working on our Q3 OTCPE and OBCPE reports. So we will have those sent soon. Marie does her registrar update, and then I'll do the coordinator update. So we've sent a few out. We still have more to send. See, that's on that. We are having our next Systems of Care Advisory Council meeting, June 9th. This represents the trauma, stroke, cardiac, and pediatric across the state. So we do have that meeting coming up on March 9th. The last 2 things I have to mention, we are excited about the use of blood products pre-hospital across the state. So our office is putting a map together that shows the counties that have pre-hospital blood, whether it be ambulance or helicopter. So the map's not live yet, it's almost there. So keep looking back on our website. We'll have that map live soon, but we're excited that we have 34 counties that have pre-hospital blood products. So it's not all whole blood or not, but it's at least they have types of product in those counties. We have 8 in the works to be added to that, and then more people are sharing interest. So it's very important that we can get this pre-hospital blood, hopefully across the state and the counties. And we have 31 helicopter stations that have the blood as well. And that map will be live so we can see where that blood is and where those products are, and maybe help more counties realize they can do this as well. Our other announcement is we do have 10 pediatric readiness centers that have been designated. If you have more questions, you can reach out to Sam Sindelar. And Sam wanted me to mention there is a pre-hospital pediatric readiness survey that is live. So if you can reach out to your EMS liaisons, the ones online, have them fill out that survey. And then if the trauma centers want to fill out the the pediatric readiness survey as well. I know some hospitals have already done that maybe 6 months ago, but the reason why they're doing this one in May is it puts all of Georgia's data in the national database, and they do it every 5 years. So currently, Georgia only showed 40% participation. So when you look at that national average, when they compare Georgia to another state in pediatric readiness, it's skewed because only 40% hospitals did the last one. So if we can encourage hospitals to fill out the pediatric readiness one, and then our EMS to fill out the pre-hospital pediatric readiness, we can see where our scores are for pediatric readiness and better educate, get more resources through RTAC to help these pediatric, health centers and pre-hospital staff be pediatric ready to serve our pediatric population. You can reach out to me if that was confusing or you have questions on that survey. It is approaching the deadline of May 31st. That just gets us into the national database to see where we stand as a state. But you can also fill that survey out at any time. It just won't be included in the national data. But we're excited to see what Georgia's doing, and thank y'all for having us.
Thank you, Stacy. That was, that's really encouraging about the pre-hospital blood. I didn't realize that many counties. That's huge, Pete, 34. 8 more on the way.
Just have to do work to figure out how to get those for.
Yeah, that's a problem.
So I think there's a report that was passed out that it's give or take, depending on the volume, $1,400 per application. And like I said, it's not refundable. There's no method to get reimbursed by Medicare and Medicaid. Insurance companies won't pay for it unless they're. I think Northeast may donate. Northeast give a lot to EMS. Northeast Medical Center.
Yeah, it's the rest of our blood bank.
Well, I applaud you because you're and I've been the only hospital that does that I'm aware of. State. And, of course, we can't bill for it. It's not a AO. It's tough, and I hate to say it, but that might be determined to really keep it going. That is the program, so we don't have waste. We're talking about that in the hallway, where a slower county can pass it to a busier county, and in hopes of not having it fill out. We're kind of doing that ourselves right now, but it became more statewide, that would help on the waste, not having any waste eliminated. So we just have to put our initiatives into an association.
The Pre-Hospital Blood Coalition, the national, which Dr. Holcomb is the vice chair of that, with Dr. John Kramer. And they're trying to, together some national talking points on how to potentially get this funded, because many people probably don't know your reimbursement model is really just per mile. That's it, right? Patient loaded miles, so not even, yeah.
Might be a good point if you could, with your connections, Pete, and talking to John Holcomb when he comes to see.
I'd love to.
It might be, I'm sure he would want to talk to you and find out more about what Georgia's doing or what the needs are. And this might be your chance to get your voice into some national conversations for EMS. Okay.
I have one more.
Not for EMS. There might be one for a hospital, of course, but not for EMS.
And we had.
EMS doesn't get to itemize. Based on the care provided. It's a base rate and loaded miles.
Well, wait, let's take a look.
Okay.
Reversing that.
Okay, anything else, Stacy?
That's all I have.
Thank you. All right, looks like that concludes all our reports. I don't have any new agenda items that have come in since the printing of the program. Any other comments or questions? Can I get a motion to adjourn? Second? All right. We'll stand adjourned. Thank you. And again, thanks, guys, staff, for helping us pull this off. Everything was great. Appreciate it.